Are on the way for the Vermilion Parish Animal Control Center after a very heated meeting tonight.
Several animal rescue organizations and dozens of supporters packed into the police jury meeting, demanding changes be made to the euthanasia policy. It comes after 3 dogs were put down, even though volunteers were on their way to save them. It sparked a firestorm on Facebook, and according to one online petition, Vermilion Parish Animal Control euthanized more than 1,400 animals last year, and at least 1,300 were never given the chance to be rescued. The issue was addressed at tonight's police jury meeting, and as our Aaron Stuber reports, emotions were running high.
These dogs are going to be saved. There was no...
It was standing room only at the Vermilion Parish Police Jury Wednesday night.
There's a list of things we'd like to have changed.
And it was heated.
I think we all need to come down with it and give one another respect and share.
At issue, the euthanasia policy at the Animal Control Center, which as of Wednesday morning is not allowing animals to be rescued. And they're saying it's because of a state mandate.
And we verify that any animal pulled from our shelter is spayed or neutered.
The jury voted while that issue is sorted out, no animals will be killed.
I feel like tonight's meeting was productive. I'm not going to call it a win.
After more contention, the police jury voted to form a subcommittee made up of volunteers and jurors that will work to improve the Animal Control Center.
The subcommittee is going to do all the investigation, give us some policy and procedure recommendations, and it's going to come to the full jury for ratification.
The jury also voting to make it a requirement that each animal set to be put down is advertised on social media.
I am looking forward to a cooperative relationship with the police jury and with the Vermilion Parish Shelter, a non-antagonistic relationship where we could all work together to save the homeless companion animals of Vermilion Parish.
In Vermilion Parish, Aaron Stuber, KATC TV3.
And that subcommittee will meet for the first time behind closed doors on Monday.
Part of their sentence. This little guy's having fun, but now as part of their sentence, the couple is going to have to come right here.
Researchers found out we're a lot more interested in playing, eating, and sleeping rather than mating. Ow! Uh-oh. Ow! Ready? In 2002, the population of the panda in the wild was barely 15.
Meanwhile, other livestock owners...
Oh,
Dude, get it out.
South of
You love it. You love it.
Texas rat snakes are going to be one of the largest snakes that you find in the Metroplex area.
And eventually that should I am so sorry, Bill. Oh my God! What the hell just happened? This is what just happened. That thing was crawling. Oh God, if that... Oh my God, that is... Oh my God! Oh no! Right at the...
Não pela sua velocidade, mas sim pelo carisma. E quem...
Attackerar en spelgalen tupp. Tjädertupp oss. Det är 1,5 plusgrader. Fantastiskt skådespel det här var. Djurisk omständighet.
Да, да, говорит, куда еще мне? Зачем ты вылазить, как по кайфу? Ай, как по кайфу.
Саймон.
Вот кому на плавание не надо ходить, пожалуйста, плавай. Сзади лапы с воды дополнительно стоят. Как чай плавает.
Мальчик мой, ты вылезти хочешь?
Нифига он не хочет, он за хвостом играется.
Уже хочет, посмотри, глазки какие. Давай ему полотенечко сюда.
Какие глазки, посмотри, он за хвостом. Он играется, он дальше играется.
Ихтиандр. Ихтиандр.
Сейчас заплывать. Осталось 3 сантиметра до слива, подожди.
Да ему надоело уже.
Да какой надоело, посмотри. За хвостом своим гоняется, надоело, блин.
Бегом, прям бегом, скажи, такое она нигде больше не увидит. Фу! Не пугай кота. Нет, Саймон, нет, нет, Саймон, нет. Нет,
она дверь открылась.
Let me try again. Oh, yeah, here we go. Here we go. Oh, shit. Come on now. All right, all right, all right. You be standing there still. Oh, yeah, 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 that's it. That's it. Don't move. Don't move. I got it. I got it. Woo, shit. You're a big girl.
Jerome, what are you doing?
I'm a peacock. I'm a peacock. I'm a peacock.
Strangely strange, but
Hi, my name's John Down. Spring has sprung, and Richard and I have managed to manfully resist the temptation to celebrate it with some sort of Busby Berkeley-ish dance routine. Instead, welcome to another edition of On the Track. What a long, crazy month it's been. You would not believe half the stuff that's happened. Well, you probably would by the time you finish watching this bumper edition, because I don't think we're going to fit it all into 32 minutes. This is Northam Burrows, just outside Bideford in North Devon. It's one of my favourite places in the world, and I've been coming here on and off since 1969, when I first came here with my parents when we were on holiday from Hong Kong. I've been reading about it almost as long. One of my favourite authors is Rudyard Kipling. Now, when Richard and I said this as part of the movie that we made of our India expedition nearly a year ago, we were accused of a whole battery of politically incorrect thought crimes. We were racist, we were imperialist, we were brutes. We were celebrating the domination of non-European peoples, when in fact we were doing nothing of the sort. We were celebrating a story about a little boy brought up by wolves. But in these decadent days, it's difficult to expect anybody to understand something as simple as that. On one internet forum, somebody even made mutterings about the white man's burden, which is an 1899 poem during which Kipling sounds more like Bono from U2 than anybody else, as he berates Europe and America for not doing enough to help the people in what is now known as the Third World. Hardly the stuff of imperialist brutality there, methinks. But as I quite often do, I'm digressing. Because one of my favourite books by Kipling is Storky & Co., also published in 1899, which tells the story of his school days here in North Devon. In 1879 he went to Westward Ho, where he spent some years at the United Services College, what he described as 12 bleak houses on the shore. He spent much of his leisure time here on Braunton Burrows, and several of the stories in Storky & Co. celebrate the area. I was at school in North Devon nearly a century after Kipling, but I've loved the place ever since. Much to the surprise of everybody who knows me, I've managed to keep up my New Year's resolution of taking exercise every day that I can, at least until the end of February. I'm doing rather well, and I feel rather pleased with myself, and on several occasions recently, either with Karina or with Graham, Prudence and I have visited Northern Burrows to see what we can see. And on this occasion we were lucky enough to see a family of shell ducks living a uniquely shell duck orientated lifestyle here on the mudflats. They are very large, colourful ducks which are found across Eurasia. There are about 22,000 living in the UK all the time, but these numbers are swelled by an extra 60,000 in the winter. They may not be particularly rare, but they're certainly spectacular. In the 19th century they were actually persecuted because they outcompeted rabbits for burrows in which to lay their nests. The species is threatened by habitat loss as a result of tidal barrage schemes across Europe. It also suffers predation from American mink on islands and is susceptible to avian influenza, so may be threatened by future outbreaks of the virus. The species is hunted for commercial and recreational purposes in Iran, and its eggs used to be, and possibly still are, harvested in Iceland. And this jolly little fellow is a redshank. It's a reasonably common British resident, but each year something like 80,000 more redshanks turn up in the winter, having migrated here from Iceland. No, I mean the island in the North Atlantic, guys, not the freezer centre in Barnstable. They are a widespread breeding bird across temperate Eurasia. It's a migratory species, wintering on coasts around the Mediterranean, on the Atlantic coast of Europe, from Great Britain southwards, and in South Asia. They are uncommon vagrants outside these areas. For example, in Palau in Micronesia the species was recorded in the mid-70s and again in 2000. They are wary and noisy birds which will alert everything else with their loud piping call. Like most waders, they feed on small invertebrates. Redshanks will nest in any wetland, from damp meadows to salt marsh, often at high densities. They lay 3 to 5 eggs. Redshanks are also water spirits or goblins from Somerset's folklore. It is unclear whether these charming little birds are actually supposed to be the physical manifestations of these malevolent little goblins. I don't care, I just enjoy watching them. One afternoon, when Graham, Prudence and I were driving across the Burrows on our way home, we saw this enormous flock of birds in the middle distance. We're not sure what they are, starlings possibly, but it was particularly interesting to see how they moved. I have watched great flocks of starlings in the sky before now. Indeed, we photographed these ones a few days ago in Bideford, but I've never seen them en masse on the ground before. And just in the same way as one marvels at how they seem to take on a Gestalt hive identity in the air, it's hard not to see a similar interconnectedness on the ground. However, the story has a mildly frustrating ending. Graham was walking along slowly towards the flock, trying to photograph them so we could find out what they were, when some ill-mannered local oik set his dog on the flock, so they all flew away. I wanted to find out which car was his so I could let his tyres down, but Graham persuaded me that this was not really that good an idea. But the most impressive adventure that we had on Northern Burrows was on our very first day, when Karina, Prudence and I found ourselves in the middle of a flock of curlews. In fact, if we're going to be more specific about this, it's in the middle of a herd of curlews, because as Karina found out, a herd is the correct collective noun for these rather remarkable little birds. I'm not saying little, they're the largest wader in the British Isles, and I've never seen more than one or two together before. And herein lies a cautionary tale. I'm afraid I'd forgotten to check the batteries on the video camera before we left the house, and they were flat. So although I managed to take still photographs of these bizarre little birds, probably amassing into a flock ready for the long flight to Iceland, I wasn't able to take any moving footage. And although we went back on the next 2 days, hoping to be able to see them again and film them, there was no luck. Maybe we'll have to wait until next year.
Right, we have in here some ape handprints that have been collected by Carl Marshall. I'm not exactly sure what species they are, but I believe there's a covering letter with them. The reason we're having these is to compare them to the handprint of the orang pendek, which I can tell you now is quite distinct from that of the orangutan. But we want to compare and contrast them with the known species of ape. There we are. Please find enclosed one gibbon handprint, one bonobo footprint. I apologise for not being able to send you the knuckle print as yet, but Twycross Zoo have very kindly said they'll contact me as soon as they're able to provide one. Right, yeah. Well, handprints are better than knuckle prints anyway, because the orang pendek hand is a handprint rather than a knuckle print. Right, I think we need some scissors. Skizzers. That's the gibbon. See, with the very long fingers for brachiation, completely dissimilar to the orang pendek. And that's the bonobo footprint. Again, quite distinct to both the handprint and the footprint of the orang pendek.
And how do you pronounce bonobo?
Bonobo.
Not?
It's not bobobo, it's bonobo.
Rich, using this as a fairly good, it's a fairly good scale.
So we can put
I like museums. I've always liked museums ever since my grandfather took me to the Natural History Museum in London when I was 4 years old, back during the latter months of 1963. In fact, I've now got an excuse to bring Rudyard Kipling into this month's narrative for the second time, because in his book Kim he describes the museum as being the Wonder House, a place full of marvels and mysteries. And this autumn we are going to be exhibiting the CFZ collection of odds and sods, plus various other things that we've got from various places in Barnstaple Museum, courtesy of our old mate Julian Vane, who brought the house down at the Weird Weekend a few years ago with his collection of curiosities from this very museum.
I've got some bits of dead animal in the box. I actually work for Barnstaple Museum. Has anyone been to Barnstaple Museum? Quick show of hands. If you haven't been to Barnstaple Museum, it's the one with the giant prehistoric, pre-glacial elephant. It's the one with the skeleton in the box, the big undersea world. And I wanted to start from the museum just to show you very today. I'm going to need some assistance from the audience in terms of, I'm not a zoologist at all, and I'm not a cryptozoologist by any means, and some of these beasts that we have here, I know a few things about, thanks to the miracle of Wikipedia, but I suspect that you probably know much more than I do. So, I guess we should do, what do we want to do? Do we want to start with the little ones in the trunk, or the big one on the table? Big one on the table, fantastic. Right, so big one on the table. Okay, big one on the table. Cyclops. Sort of. Okay, so this, my friends. Can you guess what it is yet? Thank you very much. You can see that big hole there, which is part of the reason that these were designated sometimes when they were discovered as Cyclops skeletons with their huge single eye. Now, in Barnstaple Museum, God, this thing's heavy. In Barnstaple Museum we have, as I mentioned, the remains of a prehistoric elephant. This isn't a prehistoric elephant. Any elephant enthusiast, is that the right term? Any elephants in the audience come to... So, you know, the basic question... which of the, as I understand it, 3 variants of elephant have we got here?
Well, he's going to be a difficult act to follow, but we're going to do our best. The exhibition will feature items from the CFZ collection, including the head of the Beast of the Bay and the skull washed up in Cornwall in 1975, which many people believe was from Morgow, the sea serpent. It will also feature aberrations of British moths from both the CFZ and Barnstaple Museum collections. And it will also feature things from Barnstaple Museum's collection, which Richard and I have given our own unique slant to. A cryptozoological, or at least a Fortean zoological slant, that is.
These fossilised echinoderms were thought to be snake stones. They were thought to be produced by snakes when they mate. And they would leave them in dairies to protect, as protection from the cows from snakes, because they used to believe that snakes suckled the udders of cows.
There will be more details as we get them, including behind-the-scenes look at the exhibition as it progresses. So, watch this space. And for those of you CFZ watchers who have been wanting to know what happens with our own little museum, you may remember that last summer we were visited by Tom Atkinson, a renowned arty photographer who wanted to take a portrait of me. So I decided to be photographed in our nascent museum, surrounded by some of our more arcane exhibits. The first photographs have now been released by Tom, and I think I look rather good in them. This rather unpleasant-looking photograph has been doing the rounds of the internet recently, and not surprisingly, it has been claimed that this is a chupacabra. Well, it's not. Why? Because the chupacabra is a semi-bipedal creature that I once described in an unfortunate moment as looking like Sonic the Hedgehog on acid. It's been reported over the years in the upland grassland plateau of Canovanas in Puerto Rico. It is not a doggy-looking creature that's supposedly been shot in Texas. Now, for a long time I have been leading the campaign, in fact I have been the campaign, to say that the blue dogs of Texas that have been fascinating me for nearly 8 years now have got nothing to do with the chupacabra. Well, they haven't, read my lips. But this noisome object has even less to do with it. Over to my friend Carl Marshall, who's rapidly becoming one of the new young pundits of the CFZ. He certainly seems to know what he's talking about. He writes, "Are we supposed to believe that this is a deceased dogman werewolf? I too think this animal looks far more like some sort of prop rather than a real anomalous creature, or maybe some heavily altered taxidermic construct, the former being the more likely. More legendary dogman than true canid, though. If this was a completely genuine animal that hadn't been altered in any way, it would have to be assigned to an entirely new taxonomic group distinct from the rest of the Canidae clade. Check out the anthropomorphic opposable thumbs and limbs, which would have to be attached to a pelvis and vertebra completely distinct from the rest of the group, and would have to be classified as otherwise. Therefore, dogmen cannot be bipedal wolf's dogs at all. I personally think this image has hoax written all over it. Well, Carl, I agree with you. Let's put this one to bed once and for all." Back on Northern Burrows, our quest for waders continues. Karina and I went back about a week later, and we saw 2 species of bird that we hadn't seen before. First was these. I initially thought they were sandpipers, but they are the wrong colour and don't have the distinctive eye stripe. Anyway, looking at them close up, rather than through the viewfinder of a video camera, it's pretty obvious that they're not sandpipers, so what are they? But I think that they're actually dunlin in winter plumage. Dunlin or sandpiper, what do you think? I have to admit that first I think they're one, then the other, and by now I'm completely confused. Karina and I spent the evening poring over pictures of the different types of British wader. But we really would like to ask somebody who's got a little bit more knowledge than we have. Something in the region of 5,000 people read the blog each day. So, one of you must be a bird watcher. What do you think? Are these winter dunlin, or are they something else that I've completely managed to misidentify? They are lovely, whatever they are. This is the second mystery species, and unlike the first one, we really have no idea what this is. It looks a bit like a curlew, but it appears to have darker feathers around the vent, and even something that looks a bit like a ring around its neck. I have no idea what it is, but I hope that somebody watching this will be able to tell us. And although I don't really need an excuse to make a trip to Northern Burrows, I've been coming here for years and I really love the place. This newfound interest of ours really gives us one. We have only been doing this for a couple of weeks, and already we've seen how the animal populations fluctuate over such a tiny part of the year. And I would not be at all surprised if over the rest of 2012, both on a macro and a micro level, we see some amazing changes in the bird populations. I love to watch these little birds skittering around their daily business. Our new hobby of watching British waders is an oddly addictive one, and long may it last. Unlike most of the hobbies I've taken up over the years, this one is relatively harmless. The other day we bought a chainsaw, and while Karina and Prudence watched, like the good girls they are, Matt Osborne, Graham and I set about the man's business of deciding what branches to cut off which trees. Do you want to distress if you have nothing?
The National General Certificate in Health and Safety from NEBOSH.
NEBOSH?
NEBOSH.
Yes, NEBOSH does exist, despite being a slightly unlikely sounding acronym. And so, despite the unpleasant words of Matthew's wife, who said that letting him climb a tree with a chainsaw was like letting a toddler run with scissors, I, for one, was confident. We had the best team for the job. However, I'm quite appalled by my wife's deliberate sexism as she provides a commentary for what happened. Somebody, I think, needs to inform on her to the political correctness police. Where have you gone, Graham?
Friday afternoon, boys and their toys. How many men does it take to trim a tree? Give me an axe any day. Hang on, they've got to have a discussion about it in true male fashion. Oh, I'm surprised they haven't got the tea out. Sit round a table with a cup of tea. Think about it, discuss it. Plan it ahead. Oh, hang on. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
Fingers in ears. Here we go.
Is it the glove?
The glove. Nice glove.
Shall I get the hoe?
Matthew, can you say you come against the rat?
Oh, it's getting scientific now. Matthew's got a hoe. Oh, I should really rephrase that, I suppose. Matthew's got a garden implement called a hoe.
You reckon it's still
This is all very technical. Here we go.
In the last month, two cryptozoological stories in particular have hit headlines across the world, but as always seems to happen when a cryptozoological story hits the mainstream media, all is not as it seemed to be. First, let's go to Iceland. The Lagerflottsumur or Lagerflot worm is an Icelandic lake cryptid which is purported to live in Lagerflot Lake in Iceland. Sightings have been logged since 1345 and continue in the 20th and 21st century, and an origin of the creature is given in John Arnesson's collection of Icelandic folk tales and legends, which was published in 1862 and 1864. The serpentine creature is said to live and often be sighted, raising its back above the water in Lagerflot, a freshwater below sea level glacially fed lake which has very poor visibility as a result of siltation. The Lagerflottsumur is sometimes described as being longer than a football field, or 300 feet, 91 meters in length, and has also been reported outside the water, lying coiled up or slithering into the trees. The Lagerflot worm has been sighted on several occasions in modern times, including in 1963 by the head of the Icelandic National Forest Service, in 1998 by a teacher and students at Hallsjökullnir School. In 1983, contractors laying a telephone cable measured a large shifting mass near the eastern shore when they performed preliminary depth measurements, and when they later retrieved the non-functional cable found that it was broken just where it had laid over the anomaly. In February 2012, the Icelandic national broadcaster RUV published a video thought to show the Lagerflot worm swimming in snowy-covered icy water. Although 3 million people plus have seen the video, and it made headline news across the world, the cryptozoological community were less impressed. Both Lauren Coleman and Arundel Dinnan voiced their opinions that it was some kind of remote-controlled robotic device, whilst other authorities have suggested that it is nothing more than a piece of fishing net snagged in the icy water. I'm not sure what it is. However, to me at least, it seems almost certain that it is inanimate. It's not a monster of any sort, and to quote some bard or other, it's just much ado about nothing. What, I hear you say, the global media making a fuss about something that doesn't exist? Blowing a story of no significance whatsoever, completely out of all proportion? Surely such a thing could never be. Wash your mind out with soap, Mr. Downs. I don't know what it is with the frozen north this last month, but the second story took place in Siberia. Is this bona fide film of a Siberian mammoth? A creature thought to have been extinct since the last ice age? Well, such authorities as Bernard Heuvelmans have suggested that mammoths could have survived to the modern day, and this video does, on the face of it, look pretty convincing. Yes? Well, no, actually. The fact that this story first appeared in The Sun, a British tabloid newspaper known for its well-balanced and sensible reporting, isn't actually the damning indictment that it appears to be, but it doesn't help. No, the fact that this video actually appeared without the mammoth on YouTube a month before it was released on the front pages of the tabloids actually does suggest that some skullduggery is afoot. The original footage was taken by Australian filmmaker Lou Petho, who, and I've looked him up cursorily on the internet, seems to be a good bloke. He was apparently horrified at what had happened to his footage. Now who's responsible? Many are pointing fingers at another Australian, Michael Cohen, who has apparently brought us news of pyramid-shaped UFOs and dead aliens, amongst other things. Now, before I go any further, I'd just like to point out that I am not claiming that Mr. Cohen has or hasn't faked anything. In fact, the truth is I don't care. It's an interesting story, but as a cryptozoologist, there's only one thing that really matters to me about it. Well, the thing that most interests me is how did he do it? Because an awful lot of people have been saying this isn't a picture of a mammoth or even an elephant at all, it's a picture of a bear with a salmon in its mouth. Well, I see what they're getting at, but I'm not convinced with that explanation. But whether it be a bear eating a salmon, an elephant crossing a river, or even an animation of a mammoth added onto Petho's original video footage, it's pretty obvious that this is a hoax. Sorry guys, close but no cigar. In last month's episode we went to Kenneland Cross, just outside Wolseley, to look at the frog spawn. What an exciting life we live. While we were there, we filmed this little pond, and in the bottom of the pond there are trackways from some small creature. Now, like the elephant's child, I have an insatiable curiosity, and I want to know what it was that made these trackways. Has anyone any idea? Drop me an email at john@eclipse.co.uk. Whilst on the subject of frog spawn, which we weren't, but you know what I mean, whilst we were wandering around Huddersfield Woods with the dog, we noticed something rather strange. Some of the ditches and ponds have more than their complement of frog spawn in, but others, which would on the face of it seem to be perfectly ideal locations for Mr. and Mrs. Frog to lay their eggs and bring up the new generation of batrachians, are completely empty. Why? What makes one pond suitable and this pond unsuitable? I'd love to know. And now I think it's time to go over to Karina for our regular monthly visit to the Watcher of the Skies.
I have always felt a curious affinity with this species of bird, probably because for 30 years I was a secretary, and this is a secretary bird. A highly specialised ground-dwelling bird of prey from an older family than the other Old World raptors. It is native to sub-Saharan Africa and is sadly non-migratory, so will never be a natural visitor to these shores. But I think you'd be surprised quite how many completely unexpected avian visitors Britain does have, and that's what this segment of On the Track is all about. Bernard Heuvelmans himself said that cryptozoology wasn't the study of monsters, but the study of unexpected animals, and in the UK what could be more unexpected than vultures, spoonbills and albatrosses? Yes, even the kings of the Southern Ocean have been seen in British waters. 2 species of albatross have been recorded in the UK in recent years. Not all of our feathered visitors are quite so spectacular, but nearly every day there is something exciting to greet the Watcher of the Skies. And it's hello again from me and Prudence, and we have been out all month twitching, much to the amusement of the neighbours. Classed as a rare vagrant to our shores, a paddyfield warbler was seen at Pagham Harm in West Sussex at the beginning of the month. It is a summer visitor to much of Central Asia and breeds within the Western Palearctic, west to Romania, as well as in Turkey, the Ukraine and Russia. It winters on the Indian subcontinent, although there are some records of birds overwintering in the Mediterranean, which could suggest why a British visitor would not be that much out of place. One was found in County Wexford in December 1982, although that bird later died. This sighting is the first record for Sussex. Its favoured habitat is open reed bed and swamp where it feeds on insects from vegetation near the water's surface. The first recorded here was in 1925 on Fair Isle, and it is most likely to be seen during September and October. A young male snowy owl attracted many a birder at Altakiri Nature Reserve in Londonderry. It is the first Northern Irish record for almost 7 years, the last being at Lough Foyle in Londonderry in later February 2005. Another, a female, was seen on a peat bog near Ballycastle in County Mayo on the 13th. It's a rare visitor to our shores and is found in Northern Europe, Northern Asia and North America. It lives on tundra and in the winter on fields and prairie, where it feeds on lemmings and voles and sometimes birds. The species regularly breeds as close to Britain and Ireland as Scandinavia, although a northwesterly bias to modern records seems to suggest that many of the birds occurring here are Nearctic in origin. Snowy owls seem capable of long flights over water and also appear to hitch lifts on ships with some regularity. There was one individual that got as far as Hawaii earlier this year but ended up being shot. The birds are of course more well known now due to Hedwig, Harry Potter's familiar, but there was also a well-known pair that bred for 8 years on the Shetland island of Fetlar until 1976. Snowy owls were first recorded in Shetland in 1811 and are most likely to be seen during November to June. An ultra-rare common yellowthroat was found in Gwent at Rhydyrin, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, during February. It breeds across much of temperate and subtropical North America and winters south to western South America. This sighting represents the 10th record for Britain, with a further record in 2003 from Ireland. It lives on marsh and wet scrub and eats mostly insects and spiders. It was first recorded in 1954 on Lundy, and between 1950 and 2007 there were 7 sightings. This bird is classed as a mega rarity. Red-breasted geese were seen throughout February at Solway, Drumburgh Moss in Cumbria and on the Estuary in Devon. It is classed as a rare visitor to our shores and are globally described as vulnerable. It breeds in western Siberia and winters in the Black Caspian and Aral Seas, where its habitat is riverbanks, tundra, on migration marsh and flooded fields. It was first recorded in 1776 in Middlesex and is most likely to be seen during October to February. On the 10th and 26th of February, a possible female hooded merganser was recorded at Whetstead gravel pits in Kent, and although it could turn out just to be another escaped bird, it could well be an extremely exciting find. It breeds in forested woodlands in the northern United States and southern Canada, apart from the Central Plains area, and winters south to southern United States. Its preferred habitat is swamps, streams and lakes, and on migration also seacoasts. It feeds on fish, aquatic insects and crustaceans, especially crayfish. This rarity was first recorded in the Outer Hebrides in 2000. It is the second smallest of the 6 living species of mergansers, with the smew of Eurasia being the smallest, and it's the only one that is restricted to North America. It finds its prey by sight underwater and can actually change the refractive properties of its eyes to enhance its underwater vision. Its third eyelid, the nictitating membrane, is very transparent and probably acts to protect the eye during swimming, just like we would wear a pair of goggles. And the last one for this month, the 23rd of February, saw the arrival of 5 glossy ibises. Or is it ibis? Not Marshall at Burney Marshes in Norfolk. The flock later dispersed, and perhaps it was one of these birds that reached Minsmere in Suffolk later on in the afternoon. It is classed as a scarce visitor to our shores, and its usual habitat is on lakes, marshes and swamps. It is found in southern Eurasia, Africa, Australia and southern United States and Central America. It eats mostly invertebrates and small vertebrates, and the first record here was in 1793 in Berkshire, Royal Berkshire in fact. It is most likely to occur between August and December. And now it's time to go over to Jonathan for this month's regular look at new and rediscovered species. Isn't it true?
One of the world's tiniest lizards has been discovered by keen-eyed researchers in Madagascar. The miniature chameleon Bruchisia micra reaches a maximum length of just 29 millimeters. German scientists also found a further 3 new species in the north of the island. The lizards were very limited to small ranges, and scientists are concerned that they could be at risk from a habitat disturbance. The discovery is reported in the journal PLOS One. The research team, led by Dr. Frank Glor from the Zoologische Strafvermung in Munich, have a specialist knowledge of Madagascar's dwarf chameleons, having described other species in the past. They conducted field work at night during the wet season in order to find the easily overlooked animals. They mostly live in the leaf litter in the day, but at night they climb up and then you can spot them, said Dr. Glor, explaining that the animals moved up into branches to sleep. The scientists carefully scanned the most likely habitats with torches and headlamps to find roosting sites. A distinctive echolocation frequency led to the discovery of a new species of bat within the genus Hipposideros. Although this bat is similar to the species Hipposideros armiger, differences in acoustics, size and DNA between these bats led to the identification of the new species. This new member of the bat community, which has been found in 2 locations in Vietnam, has been given the scientific name Hipposideros griffini. A current article of the Journal of Mammalogy reports on findings from a survey of bats in Vietnam over a span of 3 years. 11 of 308 bats of the Hipposideros genus which were captured and handled for study displaying different characteristics from all known packs of Hipposideros and represent a new species. Captured bats were measured for features such as forearm length, ear height, nose leaf width, tooth row length and body mass. Tissue samples were taken for genetic analysis. Recordings were made inside a flight tent, in front of caves and under forest canopies, identifying calls of bats when they left their roosts and when they were foraging. Researchers used software for bat call analysis that can display colour sonograms and measure frequency. For the first time in decades, researchers have discovered a new family of caecilians. This new family of tailless burrowed caecilians was described based on differences in the external and internal appearance compared to the 9 families of these legless amphibians that are already known. Scientists performed DNA analysis of the specimen and confirmed that it is an entirely new family. They have named this new family as Cicilidae and the new genus as Cicilla. The scientific name Cicilidae is derived from Garo, the Northeast Indian tribal language for caecilian. Well, as I said at the beginning of the show, this has been an absolutely extraordinary month for news and happenings both inside and outside the CFZ. So instead of having 3 new and rediscovered this month, we've got 6, and believe it or not, we could have made it 9 or even 12. Scientists have discovered a new species of sea snake in the Gulf of Carpentaria, northern Australia, which is unique in having raised scales. University of Queensland Associate Professor Brian Fry said that Hydrophis donaldi had evaded earlier discoveries. It prefers estuarine habitats that are poorly surveyed and not targeted by commercial fisheries. Waipa really is one of the last sea snake Serengetis. We can see more than 200 sea snakes in a single night's hunting, whereas sea snake populations have really crashed elsewhere through overfishing removing their prey, and also the snakes drowning in trawling nets, Associate Professor Fry said. Associate Professor Fry also said that the findings extend beyond just simply discovering a rare animal. All venomous animals are bioresources and provided sources of many life-saving medications such as treatments for high blood pressure and diabetes. Goodness, I think we ought to have some of those snakes here at the CFZ. If we did, perhaps I'd be able to feel my feet. A moth with a taste for Chardonnay leaves, which has infested vineyards across northern Italy, is a new species of leaf miner, scientists say. The pest was first discovered by Italian scientists in 2006, but they were unable to identify it. Now, by examining a snippet of the moth's genetic code, researchers have confirmed that it is a previously unnamed species. The Italian team enlisted the help of insect expert Erik van Nuurken from the Netherlands Centre for Biodiversity in Leiden. We first turned to the scientific literature to find out what was already known, which was appallingly little for this group of moths, Dr. van Nuurken told BBC Nature. Two scientists in Peru have discovered a new colourful lizard, which they have named Potametes montanicola, or mountain dweller. The new species was found in the Cordillera de Villalhamba and the Apurimac River Valley in the Cusco region of Peru at an altitude ranging from 1,600 to 2,100 metres. The new discovery raises some questions, say the authors. This is the only member of the genus known to live at such an altitude. It is yet unknown what biological mechanisms help the lizard survive in this harsh environment, much colder than what its relatives in its genus prefer. Scientists also believe the lizard may be nocturnal, which raises the question of how it maintains its body temperature during night time. In some cases, individuals were observed swimming in streams, which is really rather quite unusual behaviour for members of this genus. Further studies are needed to reveal its biology, population structure and conservation status and outline its overall distribution, they conclude. The newfound lizards proved to be an elusive quarry. In August 2010, researchers found a single specimen near a wooded mountain stream. From the moment he saw it, lead researcher Herman Chavez said he knew the lizards must be a new species because it looked so different from any other lizards in the genus. The find kicked off a feverish hunt for more specimens. I also have some very bad and disturbing news. This is Jeanette, wife of our old friend Lars Thomas. She recently disappeared from her home in Copenhagen and no one has seen hide nor hair of her since. If you have any information, please contact in confidence me or Lars Thomas. You can contact me on john@eclipse.co.uk, and I'd like to say that our thoughts and prayers are with Lars and his two boys at this very difficult time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. That is about it for this month, and as you can see, we had a particularly long and bumper month of things. Before we go, I want to tell you about two new projects that were launched. First of all is Fortean Fiction. Over the years, we've had various people approach us at CFZ Press with novels, and they've asked us to publish them. And until now, with very few exceptions, we haven't ever been able to publish them because we've never known anything about fiction. We've never really been involved in that side of the business. But now we've launched Fortean Fiction, which is a showcase for exciting new books by exciting new authors. Our first four releases are Snap by Stephen Bradici, and this is a book about a giant snapping turtle in Canada. Green Unpleasant Land by our own very own Richard Freeman is a collection of dark Gothic short stories set in contemporary Britain, or Britain within living memory. Left Behind by Harriet Wadham, which is a story about superheroes, is written by a 12-year-old. And Darkness by Tabitha Cope, a Higgins-esque drama set at Loch Ness. This month we've also launched with an appeal for papers, the Journal of Cryptozoology, our long-awaited peer-reviewed journal. It will do exactly what it says on the tin. It's the Journal of Cryptozoology. I think that the future is looking very bright here. I'd also like to say that tickets for this year's Weird Weekend are on sale. And we have the following speakers. Richard Freeman, 20 cryptids you've never heard of. Paul Screeton, The Hexam Heads. Richard Thorns, The Search for the Pink-Headed Duck. Nick Wadham, The Bugfest Deadly Animal Show. Kevin Goodman, Is Ufology a New Religion? Glenn Vaudrey, Scottish Sea Monster Carcasses. Jan Bonderson, Greyfriars Bobby. Richard Freeman et al., Sumatra 2011. the film premiere of Heads, directed by Graham Williamson, which is a film about the Hexham Heads. Richard Muirhead of The Flying Snake of Namibia, Lars Thomas, Danish Cryptozoology, Neil Arnold, Mystery Animals of Kent and London, Ronan Coghlan, Sinbad the Sailor, and me, the keynote speech. Well, that is it for this episode. Thank you to everybody who's helped, particularly Karina, my lovely wife, Graham Inglis, Richard Freeman, Dave Vaughan Phillips, Carl Marshall, and Matthew and Emma Osborne. I don't know what I'd be able to do without you guys. Thank you very much for everything you do, and thank you to all of you out there in CFZ reader and watcher land who also do stuff without whom we really wouldn't be able to survive. Until next month, we're seeing you.
La 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 la.